weeks ago, I introduced to you these cute little journal books in a YouTube live, and we had great fun creating this book. And I put together about 5 kits at the time because I wanted to make sure that some of the viewers could put together this cute little book just like we created in the live. And as you can see, it's really cute. It has 3 signatures and you can decorate them up any way that you like. So these kits were a big hit, and they actually surprised me because more people, well, I shouldn't say more people, but a lot of people prefer the physical kits versus the digital kits. Now, my intention is to definitely turn these into digital kits, but for the meantime, I can certainly put together several kits to allow viewers to create these little books. And what's great about these little books is you can do them in all different themes. It just depends on the type of paper and, of course, the ephemera that you add to the pages. So I decided to keep these as a staple in my shop and continue to create these physical kits so that anytime you can just go to the shop and peruse, and if you see a design that you like, you can simply purchase the kit and create these cute little books. And the books are great. They can be used as journal books if you decide to add more paper in between the signatures. You can use them as little gifts. You can give them to a crafty friend, and you can even add a pocket to add a little gift card. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's in these kits. Now, these kits are hand designed and hand picked by me. And what I mean by that is I am personally picking out the paper that you'll be using. I'll be picking out the ephemera to design the card, and the pages, I should say, not the card, and the little ephemera pieces to go in tucks and whatnot. So each kit is going to be a little bit different, but you are going to get some cute items. I guarantee that. Some of my kits will have these cute little labels that I created. All of them will have these postcard inserts as well as some ephemera pieces to decorate the pages. So each kit, while may not be exactly the same, is going to have lots and lots of pieces to decorate your books. Now, every kit, of course, is going to have the front and the back panel and the binding part to put the book together. So let me go ahead and show you how easy it is to put these books together. So once you get your kit, the first thing I would recommend is to separate all of your pages out from the ephemera and from the book that you're going to be putting together. And determine what cardstock you want to be on the outside of your book and what cardstock you want to be on the inside. Now, as you can see, the panels are oversized, so they're a little bit bigger than the actual book, but that was intentional to be able to make it easy for you to glue them down and then just trim the outside. And that way you don't have to worry about lining it up perfectly. And then once the outside of the book has dried, then you can go ahead and just take your panel and add some more glue and add your designer paper to the inside. Now, as you can see, the corners are rounded, so you can easily cut around those corners, or if you have a corner rounder, then what I typically do is once I have both my panels glued down, I just use my corner rounder. So let's go ahead and put these panels aside to dry, and let's take a look at the pages. So within every kit, you're going to get 3 signatures, and these pieces are cut and scored in the middle, and they also have the 2 holes to bind your pages to the book. So you don't necessarily even have to score it. Now, for my books, what I like to do is I like to add extra thin paper into my signature covers to create a little journal book. So the thin paper isn't included in the book, only the 3 signature covers, and that way you can decide which way you want to go. So once you have your pages, you're going to go ahead and fold them, and you can fold the paper where the designer part is on the outside, or you can fold it where the designer part is on the inside. This is completely up to you, because remember, we're going to be covering the parts of the signatures that don't have designs on them. Okay, so within your kit, like I said, you're going to get some staples. And what I mean by that, it's the kits that will always have the same thing. Now, the paper might be a little bit different. Keep that in mind because it's going to be dependent on the theme. But you're always going to get enough paper to decorate all of your panels. So if you want to add designer paper to the cardstock that is already decorated, you can certainly do that as well, or you can leave it as it is. Additionally, I won't be rounding the corners for you. You're going to have to do this yourself. And this isn't necessarily a requirement when you put your book together. It's just a look that I like. The other thing you're going to be getting in your kit are these really cute little postcard cards. And you're going to be getting 6 of these postcard cards, and you're going to be getting 6 pieces of the designer paper that I was just holding. So like I said, this is going to be enough paper to mix and match, and you can decide exactly how you want to decorate your book. So once I had all of my corners rounded, it was time to go ahead and put my signatures together. And what I mean by that is decorating the pages. I'm going to show you how to bind the book in just a minute. All right, so I typically like to decorate my pages before I add them to the covers. But really, if you do decide to add your pages to the book before you decorate them, it's pretty easy to add your paper after the fact. But I simply like to work on a flat surface. Now, as you can see, the paper coordinates really pretty. And this is intentional because, like I said, I hand pick every item that goes into these kits. So it's not something that I have on an assembly line where I'll just simply add the same paper to every kit. No, I go into my stash, I go into my digitals, and I handpick every single paper to make sure that it coordinates nicely. Additionally, I'm going to have not only paper that coordinates nicely, but I'm going to have theme books. So for instance, we have St. Patrick's Day coming up in a few months. So I'm going to certainly be putting together some St. Patrick's Day kits. This book is more towards Valentine's with the reds and the pinks. But I'm going to not only, like I said, have color coordinated books, but theme books as well. Now this is going to be based on my ability to put these kits together. So I'm not going to have an abundance of each type. So if there's a particular type of theme that you want, I would recommend that you check back regularly to see if it's in the shop. Now another nice addition before you actually add your panels to your pages is to add some distress ink to the edges like I was doing now. These are vintage inspired books, so any way that you can add a little bit more vintage look to the books is always an addition. All right, so now that we have our signatures decorated, let's go ahead and put the book together. So as you can see, this has the 6 holes already pre-punched into this panel, and the score line is already there. Now, if you want to make the score line a little bit more prominent, you can certainly take it to your scoreboard, but it really isn't necessary. As you can see, I just simply bent it over where the score line starts, and I'm able to put the binding into a nice rounded book bind. And then from there, I just took my glue and I'm adding it to my panel to the back of the book bind. Now, if your designer paper does go a specific way, so for instance, this inside paper has words, you want to make sure when you add the second panel that you are paying attention to the direction of your words or your design, because you don't want one side of the book to be upside down. And I would also recommend putting the book aside to dry for a bit. So once you have your panels put together and they're dry and you have them rounded at the corners, you can go ahead and add your front and your back to the middle part of your book. And then I would recommend putting it aside to dry while you work on your signatures. All right, so like I said, each kit is going to have specifically hand-picked ephemera to go inside your kit. Some of it will be little tags. Some of it will be just pieces of ephemera. It might be paper dolls, but it's going to vary. And it's going to enable you to choose how to decorate your book. Typically what I'll do in all of my books is I'll create a little pocket in the front and I'll put a little tag or a little library card in it. And that works as kind of like a gift card. So if this is a gift book, I can write a little note, a little to and from card to the person that I'm giving it to. All right, so let's go ahead and add these signatures to the book. So within the kit, you are going to get enough twine to put your signatures together. And the holes are big enough that you really don't even need a needle. Now, if you are going to be adding additional thin paper to add to make it into a journal book, then you may need to use a needle because you're going to have several pieces of paper. But if you're simply adding the one signature to the book, then you can do it just by threading it through the hole like I'm doing here. Now for this demonstration, I am going to go ahead and remove the inside of the paper, and I'm just going to bind the signatures because I want to show you how it's going to be in your kit. But all of my finished books, I always turn into journals. While I love the little design of just having the ephemera pieces, I like to have it as a working journal, but you have to still be careful about that because you can't have paper that's too thick. So for instance, the signatures are the heavy cardstock that you're going to get. It's not the thinner paper. And you couldn't necessarily add, 15 pieces of heavy cardstock. The little book just won't hold that. But in my signatures, typically what I'll add is the thinner paper. And this is the paper that is decorated, but it's kind of the consistency of copy paper. It's pretty thin. And I will add 5 to each signature, so that way when my book is completed, I have a little journal book that has 15 pages. And while this journal book, I tie my knot in the middle, on some of my other journal books, I actually tie the bow on the outside. So you can really go either way, tying your knot on the inside or making a bow on the outside. All right, so once you have your signatures together, this is where the fun comes into play. This is where you get to decorate all your little pages. And you can create little tucks, you can create pockets. There's so many things you can do in this little book to make each one unique. Now, as a vintage inspired crafter, I tend to have vintage ephemera within my studio. So I've decided that not only am I going to add reproduced ephemera to go into my kits, but I will also add a few little pieces of authentic vintage just to give it that authentic vintage design. Now, as you can see, I'm not only adding glued pieces to the pages, but I'm creating little tucks like I mentioned before. And this is for that special ephemera that you don't necessarily want to glue down to your page, but you want to be able to remove it and share it. And this is a great little book to be able to give to a crafty friend because you can add little notes, you can add maybe pieces of ephemera you want to give to them. It's just a really cute little book. Now this video is going to be used as my tutorial. So when you get your kit, you're not going to necessarily have a step-by-step instruction, but I will have this linked to the shop. So when you do buy the kit, you can always go back and refer to this video if you need a refresher on how to put it together. Once you've put a couple of the books together, you're going to find that you've got it down and it's going to go together very easily. And you're going to have hours and hours of fun putting together different types of theme books for every occasion. So I hope that you've enjoyed my recap of these little journal books, and I hope that you too also visit the shop and see if there's any types of books you'd be interested in putting together, because I tend to get a little crazy when I find something that I love, and I love these books. So I'm going to be putting together several kits for you guys to enjoy as well. All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.